A house divided. Korea in 2024. The political situation in South Korea is more tense than ever. The whole country is on edge, with protests and demonstrations happening everywhere. People are worried and uncertain about the future of their country. The already unstable political landscape has become even more chaotic. Politicians are constantly arguing, creating a turbulent atmosphere in the National Assembly. A controversial bill, aimed at strengthening national security by restricting certain civil liberties, has sparked widespread protests. People fear their freedoms will be violated. The opposition strongly objects, claiming the government is abusing its power and heading down a dangerous dictatorial path. They are calling on the people to stand up for their rights. The usually bustling streets of Seoul have become a sea of protesters. Loud chants and raised banners create a scene of high tension. Tensions with the north, already high, have escalated significantly. The military is on high alert, ready to respond to any situation. The South Korean president, fearing impeachment and loss of power, redirects the pressure towards North Korea under extreme stress, leading to conflict. Pyongyang, always opportunistic, seized this moment. The North Korean leader didn't miss the chance to ramp up propaganda and consolidate power. The propaganda machine is working overtime, painting a picture of a weak, divided South Korea, ripe for unification, by force if necessary. These images and messages are broadcast constantly on North Korean media channels. Military exercises, always a flashpoint, are intensified, their presence near the border a blatant provocation. Both sides are steadily increasing their military strength. The world watches with bated breath, fearing the worst. Countries around the globe are concerned about the escalating tensions. The memory of the Korean War, though decades past, remains vivid. The black and white images of that war are a painful reminder of the devastation and loss. The DMZ, a stark reminder of a divided nation, seems to bristle with renewed animosity. The barbed wire fences and watchtowers are symbols of the ongoing division and tension. The already precarious situation has become even more dangerous. Everyone is worried about what will happen next as tensions continue to rise. Behind the scenes, the United States is pulling strings, instigating war. Secret meetings and strategies are being devised to escalate the conflict. Crossing the line, a fatal miscalculation ignites a firestorm, engulfing the Korean Peninsula. On one fateful night, a series of unthinkable events unfolded, plunging the region into unprecedented chaos. A South Korean patrol boat, responding to reports of a North Korean fishing vessel crossing the maritime border, strayed too far north. Long simmering tensions boiled over as the ships of both sides faced off in a dangerous game of chicken. A tense standoff ensued, words exchanged, warnings ignored, threats and warnings went unheeded, and the tension escalated rapidly. Then, the unthinkable happened. A single shot rang out, shattering the fragile peace, its origin unknown, its consequences catastrophic. That shot became the signal for a chain of irreversible events. A single shot rang out, shattering the fragile peace, its origin unknown, its consequences catastrophic. Immediately, forces on both sides opened fire and the situation quickly spiraled out of control. Within hours, the situation deteriorated beyond control. Retaliatory strikes followed in quick succession, and no one could stop the escalation. Artillery and missile attacks transformed the border region into a chaotic battlefield. Artillery rained down on South Korean border positions. Explosions rocked the area, and South Korean defense forces faced a fierce onslaught. North Korean special forces, under the cover of darkness, launched amphibious assaults along the coast. These attacks were meticulously planned and executed with terrifying precision, causing widespread panic and damage. Seoul, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. South Korean military forces were mobilized and the city was placed on high alert. Air raid sirens wailed throughout the night, a terrifying symphony heralding impending doom. People panicked, seeking shelter, as military forces prepared for war. The United States, bound by treaty and historical obligation, mobilized its formidable military might. Aircraft carriers steamed towards the Korean Peninsula, fighter jets roared through the skies, and troops, stationed in the south since the armistice, prepared for the unthinkable, a second Korean War. Aircraft carriers steamed towards the Korean Peninsula, fighter jets roared through the skies, and troops, stationed in the south since the armistice, prepared for the unthinkable, a second Korean War. The U.S. military presence was a clear warning that they would not stand idly by. China, North Korea's only true ally, found itself in a difficult position. Beijing faced pressure from both sides as it tried to maintain regional stability and protect its own interests. Publicly calling for restraint, Beijing nonetheless bolstered its military presence along the border, wary of U.S. intentions and the potential for the conflict to spread. Diplomatic talks continued, but no one was certain of the outcome. The world held its breath, praying for diplomacy, bracing for the worst. Global leaders met, trying to find a peaceful resolution, while people everywhere watched the news with mounting anxiety. The future of the Korean Peninsula and world peace hung precariously in the balance. Seoul, once a vibrant metropolis, is now a ghost town. Streets once bustling with laughter and traffic are now desolate avenues filled with crumbling buildings and smoke. Skyscrapers, once symbols of economic prosperity, are now blackened skeletons against a smoky sky. Offices that once housed thousands are now piles of rubble, devoid of life. Hospitals overwhelmed with casualties struggle to cope with the relentless stream of injured. Doctors and nurses work tirelessly trying to save lives amidst shortages of equipment and medicine. Families huddle in subway stations, seeking refuge from the incessant bombing raids. Children, wide-eyed with fear, cling to their parents, while adults try to maintain composure and hope for a better tomorrow. The DMZ, once a symbol of division, is now a no-man's land, littered with the debris of war. The walls and fences that once separated two nations are now shattered fragments, testaments to the destruction. Villages on both sides of the border, caught in the crossfire, are reduced to rubble. Homes that once sheltered families are now piles of brick and mortar, devoid of life. Millions of refugees fleeing the fighting clog the roads and strain already limited resources. The elderly, children, and women carry what's left of their former lives, hoping to find safety. North Korea, its industrial heartland targeted by U.S. airstrikes, has suffered immensely. Factories and infrastructure lie in ruins, crippling the economy and throwing thousands out of work. The power grid has collapsed, plunging the country into darkness. People rely on candles or oil lamps for light, their daily lives completely disrupted. Food shortages, already a problem, have reached alarming levels. Empty shelves, people queuing for food aid, hoping for enough to feed their families. The government, its authority already fragile, faces growing unrest from within. Protests erupt, people demanding change and accountability from their leaders. The human cost of the conflict is staggering. Mass graves, rows of flag-draped coffins, are a testament to the war's brutality. Tens of thousands, both military and civilian, have perished in the fighting. Fallen soldiers on the battlefield, civilians mourning their lost loved ones, all victims of this senseless war. The injured, many grievously wounded, face a bleak future in a region ill-equipped to handle the scale of suffering. Makeshift hospitals, lacking in everything, can offer only minimal care. The world recoils in horror, the images of devastation a stark reminder of war's brutal reality. Nations across the globe condemn the conflict, calling for peace and humanitarian aid for those affected. As the war raged on, a glimmer of hope emerged from the ashes of destruction. Ordinary people on both sides of the conflict, weary of the bloodshed and yearning for peace, began to speak out. Protests, once confined to South Korean cities, now erupted in the north, a testament to a global yearning for an end to the violence. International pressure mounted for a ceasefire. The United Nations, often criticized for its inaction, found renewed purpose. Diplomatic channels, silent for weeks, buzzed with renewed activity. World leaders, horrified by the carnage, worked tirelessly to broker peace. The United States, though victorious on the battlefield, recognized the futility of a protracted war. China, fearing regional instability and economic fallout, used its influence to bring North Korea to the negotiating table. The world watched and waited, hoping this fragile chance for peace wouldn't be squandered. This is the mildest scenario if war breaks out between the two Koreas. If it actually happens, it's hard to imagine the outcome when major powers, including the US and its allies, China, and even Russia, get involved beyond just South and North Korea. It's truly difficult to envision the consequences.